Let's go over to the Phillies, who are projected to win 84.9 games, 77.1 losses. That feels low to me. And let's just talk real quick about that Zach Wheeler extension. Wow, that I did not really see that coming. Although maybe I should have. I know they wanted to extend Zach Wheeler, and I figured it would be a great call. They gave him 3 years, 26 mil, so a 42 annual average value. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for Zach Wheeler for 3 years. But hey, that's what you have to do if you want to lock a guy like that up where he is an age for a shorter amount of time. If you don't want to make a long-term commitment, you're just going to have to raise the per year basis for a couple of years. That's what they did, because you know what? Their window is those 3 years, I feel like. But anyway, I think it's a great move. I think Zach Wheeler is a fantastic pitcher, and I think he's going to be very good for those 3 years. I really do. Let's look at the lineup for the Phillies right now. They got Kyle Schwarber leading off at the DH, Trey Turner at shortstop, or Bryce Harper, newly appointed first baseman, Nick Castellanos in right field, Alec Boehm at third base, Bryson Stott at second, JT Realmuto at behind the plate, correct English right there, Brandon Marsh in left field, and Johan Rojas in center field. On the bench, they have Christian Pache, Whit Merrifield. That's a great little pickup for them. And Mundo Sosa, and Garrett Stubbs. In the rotation, they have Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker, and Christopher Sanchez. In the bullpen, they have Jose Alvarado, Jeff Hoffman, Gregory Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Matt Strahm, Orion Kerkering, Connor Brogdon, and Spencer Turnbull. Now, I really like this lineup. I really do. What can go right for them to get over that about 85 wins, 85 win projection, basically, by Pecota? They can all do what they did last year. Kyle Schwarber, if he hits bombs, even if he hits below 200, it was a wild year for him. I mean, 47 home runs and a .6 WAR, I think. But I mean, take that WAR with a grain of salt in this situation. I think 47 home runs is tremendous. If he can raise that average, raise that on base percentage just a little bit, you'd love to see it. Let me just fact check his on base percentage real quick. I kind of want to see it. Kind of want to see what it was. 343 on base. I mean, if he hits around 200 with a 350 on base, his OPS plus was 122, OPS of 817. That's a fine season. You take that all day. You take that. Although, I mean, you'd love to see a little bit more in the average department, maybe more base hits. But if he's going to give you 45 bombs, then that is fine. That is fine. Trey Turner, if he can do what he did last year after the ovation, if he can do that over a full year, I mean, that is a potential, that's a top 10 MVP voting situation for sure. Speaking of MVP, if Bryce Harper gives you what he gave you in the second half of the season, that is an MVP season worthy. Absolutely. I think his slugging, or not his slugging, his OPS was close to 1,000 in the second half of the season. So that is just tremendous. Nick Castellanos, we all know Nick Castellanos can hit the ball. If he hits about 30 home runs, 100 ribbies, solid average, solid on, good on base. Let me just see what he did last year. I want to fact check myself. He hit 272 with 29 bombs. His on base was 311 though. I think that's where you want him to get better. You want him to get on base a little bit more. I'm not so much concerned with average. I would much rather have a guy have a better on base percentage. OPS plus is 112. That is, that's fine. He's going to give you some home runs. He's going to drive in runs, which is important. I know average is a thing of the past. I still like average, like I said, but there are definitely things more important than average. On base percentage, in my opinion, being one of them, as well as slugging. Basically, OPS is the first thing I look for nowadays. I just want to get that out there. If you get Nick Castellanos to have an OPS around 800 to 850, that's a huge win. Bryson Stott, if you can get what you got from him last year, a 15 home run season, a 30 stolen base season, playing great defense at second base, that's a huge win. And JT Realmuto, he had kind of a down year for him. Still a great year as a catcher, but just a down year for him. Worried about the age a little bit. He's going to be 33 this year. And on the mound, if you get what you got from Aaron Nola in the last month and the playoffs during the regular season, that is a fantastic pitcher. Zach Wheeler just giving you what he gives you on a yearly basis. That is a great starter. That's a great one too. Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker. I mean, Ranger Suarez, no one hits him in the playoffs. No one hits him in the playoffs. What he did to the Braves in game 1 of the NLDS was spectacular. I believe that was the first time they were shut out at home all year, and it came at the most crucial time for the Phillies. That was fantastic. That was a fantastic outing. The Braves had no answer for him. He's a little bit slept on, in my opinion. I think the back end of the rotation in general is a little bit slept on. Taijuan Walker and Christopher Sanchez are just fine back end of the bullpen or back end of the rotation pieces. And I honestly, speaking of slept on, I think their bullpen's a little bit slept on. Jeff Hoffman looked great last year. Gregory Soto, he's a decent bullpen arm. Sir Anthony Dominguez, we've seen glimpses of him being great. Matt Strom's a solid lefty. Orion Kerkering, he could be the X factor of that bullpen. He was electric in the postseason, has some great stuff. It's going to be interesting to see a full year out of him. We all know what Jose Alvarado is going to give you. He's going to give you an absolute crazy amount of strikeouts. And I've heard Spencer Turnbull looks really good this spring. So if he's a weapon out of the bullpen, that's just an added weapon. I love repeating words, apparently. That's tremendous, though. That is a tremendous bullpen. I think it's slept on. It's slept on. It has the potential to be very, very good. I know they lost Craig Kimbrell, but he is, I feel like Orion Kerkering is a good little replacement for him for what he gave you as far as like innings, strikeouts, that sort of thing. I know he's not going to be slated to be the closer, but that is still a good bullpen. Good bullpen. What can go wrong? What can go wrong for this Phillies team? I think that age could be a very, very interesting thing because Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Castellanos, JT Realmuto, they're all over 30. I'm not saying age is the end all be all, but regression is more likely after 30 in a lot of cases. And I know they're early 30s. Kyle Schwarber's 31, Bryce Harper's going to be 31, Nick Castellanos 32, but it is something to pay attention to a little bit. And I think that's a good reason why they got Zach Wheeler for the next 3 years, because their window is now. I mean, you can certainly still be in your prime from 30 to 35 as a position player, as a hitter. There's absolutely, you can absolutely do that. And I'm not saying it's an end all be all thing, but it is something to just, think about. It's something to think about. I certainly don't want it to happen. I don't want to see anyone regress whatsoever, because this could be an electric lineup. And excuse me, same thing with the rotation, or specifically Wheeler and Nola. Nola's just going to be, he's going to turn 31 this year, so maybe not as much as an age thing. Plus with pitchers, it's a little bit different. I feel like pitchers age a little bit better into their 30s, into their late 30s, specifically. Most of the time, I want to say. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but just anecdotally from recent memory, by the way the game is played this year, or by the way the game is nowadays, I feel like pitchers age a little bit better than position players, especially in premier positions like shortstop, catcher, outfield. Excuse me. But that's what can go wrong. I hope it doesn't. As far as win total, how many games do the Phillies win? I have a hard time imagining a world where they don't win 90 games right now. I do think that they win 90 games when I look at the lineup, when I look at the potential there. I did have a recent video on my main channel where I had, where I did my boldest takes for the upcoming 2024 season, where my Phillies take was probably one of the more wild ones out there. But my bold prediction was that they would finish under 500. Now, I don't think that is going to happen, but it's possible, just like anything is possible in baseball. And the age is what scares me the most. But I still think they're going to win 90 games. It would be very hard for everyone who is over 30 to regress. And that's just not feasible. That's just not how a lot of things work, especially in cases like Bryce Harper. He's going to be hitting bombs until he's like 38. And I mean bombs on a consistent basis until he's 38. And I hope the rest for all of them.